Welcome to the John Cady podcast. I'm John Cady, U.S. Navy retired former minister. I recently was up in Kansas today to spend the afternoon with my daughter over at her mom's place. Typically, things are pretty exciting over there, but today was a little bit more subdued because my daughter has been sick for the last day or so. I wish her a speedy recovery on this and she can get back in school, get back and doing the things that she enjoys. A few days ago, I posted a short about a court case that wrapped up in Pawhuska, Oklahoma. It involved disgraced former pastor Robert Morris of Gateway Church. I won't go into the details and rehash everything that's already out there. You can look that up just about anywhere. The Robert Morris incident, with him committing indecent acts on a child and the sentence that he received, is despicable. He got off very easy. 6 months in the county jail, 9.5 years probation. Yeah, he's going to be on the registry, but at the end of the day, it doesn't do much justice for the victim. The victim is scarred for life and has been scarred for life for decades. He should have been locked up for good. That's just where my position is on it. If you harm a child in that fashion, I even go as far as to support the death penalty on these creatures. Because when you start going after children and preying on them, you are in violation not just of man's law, but you're also in violation of God's commandment when Jesus himself warned about harming children. If you harm any of these little ones, it would be better that a millstone were tied around your neck and you were cast into the sea. With that precedent that Jesus himself set, I support capital punishment for those who commit the most horrific, heinous acts against our most innocent and vulnerable among us. And when I follow these predator catching shows, yes, we see people from all walks of life. And not just individual that you see on the stereotypes from back when I was growing up, the old stranger danger films that they used to show us in school and warn us about not taking rides from strangers, not accepting anything from strangers. But sometimes these predators who come after our kids are in positions of trust, positions where we would expect them to be there for our kids and protect them. That includes our doctors. That includes teachers. It includes even the members of our clergy, regardless of what religion you practice. I find it ironic how in DC Talk's Jesus Freak album, the opening words on the song What If I Stumble, it was a spoken word piece that says, "The biggest cause of atheism today is Christians. They worship him with their lips, but deny him by their lifestyle." That is what an unbelieving world finds unbelievable. The irony sank in really deep during the summer with all the mess that came out about Michael Tate. But Michael Tate is just one example of many. And it seems to be such an epidemic. Every so often you see on the news about members of the clergy being involved in one incident after another. And unfortunately, it's not just the people committing those crimes, but it's also the actions of the church leadership in trying to cover it up. How so, John? How do they try to cover this up? Well, when you hear of a pastor or a minister being transferred to another congregation, or you have the blame being shifted to the victim instead of the perpetrator, to which I say, no, you don't blame the victim for your actions. That is just garbage. I am so tired of this. As somebody who has devoted much of his life over the last 2 decades in helping reach out to people and talking about and bringing to light incidents like this and being a voice crying out for reform in the Christian community, at what point are we as believers, at what point are church leaders going to take this seriously and not just give lip service that makes everybody feel good, but actually put action behind it? And what do I mean by putting action behind it? I mean things like if you find out that there is a minister or a pastor in your church who is, say, for example, using his laptop to permit acts of voyeurism against other members of the congregation in an indecent manner, you don't just remove the person from his position of ministry. You have that person turned over to the authorities, and after that individual completes his sentence, you do not, and I mean this, you do not welcome that person back on the platform with open arms and pretend that nothing happened. That is so wrong, and it's a disservice to anybody who has ever been victimized. This also includes welcoming the individual back into the ministry as a whole, but placing that person at a different congregation. So again, people act like nothing happened. That makes me mad. That makes me sick, because certain actions, certain behaviors should automatically disqualify a person from ministry, period. Those individuals should never be allowed back behind a pulpit again, nor allowed access to any of our youth. When I hear these youth pastors gone wild stories, it also exposes an epidemic of indecent behavior. And when these people get in trouble, they try to blame the victim when it wasn't the victim's fault at all. Just like in the church organizations I used to belong to, they would blame the women for anything that happened to them when it wasn't the women's fault. It was men who refused to discipline themselves, discipline their minds and their bodies so that they didn't act inappropriately. And that's where I stand on that too. It is high time that we need to start putting more focus on the men behaving themselves so that they don't commit these horrible acts against women, against young girls, against children, period. There has to be reform. And I wish and pray to God that the pastors would take this seriously instead of sweeping everything under the rug or shuffling people around. This is John Cady. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please hit like, hit subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one.